week's conversation and today. What should take place in the locker room? Like, he was in the hospital till the next day. If you notice, if that film goes forward, he doesn't check on his buddy. He goes right back into goal. So this film is out there. He's seen this. What do you think, guy? And this is, again, so from a leadership perspective, obviously there could have been a communication issue, but what's the play from the social development phase of what that goalkeeper now might need to do? Rowan, I'm going to pick on you.
Well, I know that there's a social part, and I don't know. I think he should have, because the keepers are the leaders on the field, and I think he should have went to go check. You know what I mean? Even if they're not as close as what he might be with another defender, I still think he should have checked on his own player from that aspect. But
what about even like the next day or the next two days later, they see each other in the locker room? Like, what's going on there? Is there tension? How do you rectify that? And what do you say to that teammate if you're that goalkeeper? Hannah, I'm going to ask that question to you.
I was just like, apologize, because I would apologize, but yet again, they shouldn't have been there, because assuming he called for it, they should have moved.
So is an apology necessary?
I don't know. That's a tough question.
Let's get some of the new guys on here. Can we ask Adam? Can I ask you that question, sir? What would you say about that part?
I'll definitely say sorry. But it's part of the game. You just have to clear out the ball. But obviously you don't want to take out your own teammate. But you have to do, I guess. But
do you talk to him about it?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah. I think as the leader on the team and being that leadership position, I think that's something that's incredibly important, is to speak about what happened, whether it's communication, how he went through them, what he could have done differently, and learn from it and move on, and kind of, I guess you could say, lick their wounds as they move forward.
I think what you might have a little bit here, guys, as well, is if I go to nature, this is a little bit like the peacock ruffling his feathers. And I think what you see here is clearly Edison, one of the best goalkeepers in the world. He's got a bit of an edge. This is my domain, this is my area, and you've stepped into it, mate. You shouldn't be there, And I think there's maybe a little bit of that in there as well. So I'm not saying he's strutting his stuff like a peacock would, but I think he's definitely marking his territory. And that's probably why we had the outcome that we did. I would probably hazard a guess that after the game or the day after, there would have been a conversation of some sort between the two. How are you, buddy? You okay? But I think in the moment, again, don't forget, this is being watched by billions around the world. And I don't think that Edison would have wanted to show any kind of weakness, because that transfers obviously over to the opposition, but also probably, again, like we talked about socially, Eric, he's standing in the group. He's the goalkeeper. It's his domain. He's the tough guy, and that could be, what manifested into the fact that it looks like he didn't care. I can imagine he probably does, but in the moment, I think he's probably left that. We'll deal with that later. So, yeah, okay, great conversation. Let's move on to the next clips. So, let me just get my laptop working. So, Sam. Again, yep. I'm going to leave this to you, buddy.
No worries, mate.
So what we've got here, everybody, is two situations, again, from the same game, different goalkeeper this time. This is Leno. And we've got two one-on-one situations. The first one doesn't result in a goal, but the second one does. Now, obviously, as coaches, we've had a conversation. Sam's going to lead with some detail, but we also want you guys to give us your input on what you think he may have done well, what he may be better at, or what he might need to improve on, how he could have solved, the second problem even more so. But let's have a look anyway. We'll watch it a couple of times, and then Sam will drive and lead on it. Okay, so we go again. So this is the first one. Decides to come put a bit of pressure on, forces the attacker to play over the bar. Second one, he decides to drop and hold, and it ends up in a goal. So Sam, over to you, pal.
Yeah. So guys, you've got two two situations there. Obviously, we talked about defending the goal area and space again. So the first he's gone with the spread technique. So he's covering the goal with his legs, his hands, and as you can see, the defence are in a pretty good shape, to be fair. But then Luis decides to go out on a walkabout, which leaves a big gap in behind. So the goalkeeper's then thinking the defenders can't, because they're on their way out, the defenders can't then turn back quickly. So he's had to make a decision to come, make the save, make the spread. But as you can notice from the first one, he's stood up nice and big, got his hands out nice and wide, and he's managed to flick it then over the bar. For the second one, the defenders are again in an okay shape. But again, we're thinking about those triggers and that. As the ball comes in and comes off David Luis, again, very, very poor defending from Luis. So that's another decision the goalkeeper's got to make. He's going to think that the defender's going to clear a nice, easy ball away. But again, he misses it. As you can see, again, the keeper's on the front foot trying to come for it. He then makes the decision to go back onto his line. But as you see, when that ball gets strike from Sterling, he does change his body shape. He turns and almost goes back on the goal, making his body smaller, which is a completely different technique than he used to make the save. So he's made him smaller, not used his hands. He's always tucked his hand in and then tried to move his hand after the ball's gone past him. Obviously, a very good strike, gone right through him. But again, guys, two different situations, two different outcomes. Loads of decisions to make in a split second. And again, guys, we'll pass it over to you guys. Anything you feel that he could have done with either decision, any other decisions he could have made? Yeah, guys, just get your thoughts on the goal in particular. Anything else he could have done better, or anything he could have done differently?
Just with that, Sam, before anybody jumps in, I hope that it came across to everybody, but I was trying to sort of pause the video at certain points. Obviously, when you were talking, Sam, I was trying to link it in with what you were saying.
Yeah.
But this is important, guys. This is a good bit of analysis we can look at now. We can try. So does anybody want to discuss any points of those two situations? And if so, I'm more than happy to get to that point in the video and pause it for you. So who'd like to comment on that situation?
I could have came out on the second one a bit bigger, because he made the goal bigger for him to find it into score goal.
Okay. So when it hits Louise, that's where he is. So what's your thoughts on his position at that point?
I think he should have came out for it as soon as Louise lost the control, because he didn't do it, hit off of him and went past him. So
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you think he was expecting Louise to do what he did?
No.
So what do you think he's expecting Louise to do?
Clear it.
Yeah. So what does that tell us, guys, as goalkeepers? We can never do what?
Assume.
So you've always got to think that in any moment, especially in that final third, that your teammate isn't going to perform the action that you expect them to, or to perform a successful action. There could always be a mistake. There could always be a misplaced touch or a misplaced pass. And we can never be in a situation where we can relax too much. So you've always got to be thinking that possibly the worst could happen. So in this situation, it did. So might that have had some kind of effect on the outcome?
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, psychologically, guys, you've got to stay focused all the time. You've got to be thinking that the worst could happen. Now, the touch has happened there. It's come off Louise, and I froze it at a perfect point there. As it lifted off Louise, what's he starting to do?
Drop back.
Yeah, so he's starting to move, isn't he? So I wonder why he hasn't kept going. Anybody want to answer that? What's your thoughts on the the fly to the ball, or his mindset, or what's your thoughts?
Hesitated.
Who said that? Yes.
That slight hesitation, wasn't there? Yeah. So again, watch as it hits Lewis's leg. But shall I go? No, I'm going to stay. Okay. Now, Eric, Sam, if you don't mind, I'll just talk about this fine detail here.
Yep.
So what I want you all to look at is have a look at. First thing is, I don't think he's got enough help from his defenders, because this guy here, what's his job?
Stay on the attacker.
So he's got to be looking after Sterling and offering support to Louise, hasn't he? So not only might Leno be thinking, yeah, it's okay, he's got it, but I also think this guy here is not helping the situation. I'd want him to be further across and maybe a little bit deeper. But for me, he's too high. This guy here also might need to come down and just offer some defensive cover and support. Okay? So obviously, it's too late now. The situation's happened and Sterling is in. Now, what I want you to look at, guys, is look at where Sterling is looking at, and might Leno have done something a little bit differently, knowing or understanding where Sterling's focus was all the time. Where's he looking?
At the ball.
All the time, yeah? Okay? Now, by the time he turns and looks, that's his first look at the goal. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So, in between it hitting Louise's leg, yeah, there's no glance from Sterling at all to check on where Leno was. So might that have been an opportunity for Leno to get pressure on the ball?
Yeah.
Everybody agree with that, you think?
Yeah.
But ultimately, he's made the decision, hasn't he, to stay on the line. Okay? So go ahead, Sam, with your last little bit if you want to just finish that off.
Yeah, definitely, guys. So that, looking at that Leno's end position he's in for the goal, looking back at the one he'd saved, I know the ball was a little bit further forward around the 6 yard line, but trying to think about that, where is his position now? Where's he facing? Where's his head gone?
To his right.
To his right. So he's gone back on himself, yeah? So before, when he made the save, he was nice, chest out, arms out, covering every part of the goal, and his timing was spot on. Obviously, the strike from Sterling's very powerful from close range. So there, look, his hand's out, and he's got his eye on the ball. As he's flicked it with his hand, his head's gone with it. And if you go back to the goal, as we see it coming through now, and you see that little hesitation, going back on his line, he's set, makes himself big at that point, but as that ball comes towards him, there he's gone very narrow. See his arms down by his side, and then his power's too big for the power's it's too powerful a shot, and his hand's a little bit too late on the timing. What other thing could he do in that situation, do you reckon, from that close range? If he's not going to come and close it down, what could he do?
Smother it.
Smother the ball.
Smother the ball. What else?
Came out and told his defense to go away and take the ball from the striker and do 1v1. That might
Yeah,
not have been.
what could do? If it's that close, what could you do? Where do you think Sterling's going to go? Is he going to go near or far?
Far.
Near or far post?
Um,
He's going to go across him, yeah? So he could be, what? He could gamble, do you reckon? Could he gamble where he's going to go and just fling himself to one side?
Maybe. I mean, it's 50-50.
50-50, yeah? So does he give himself the best possible chance of making that save in the position he's in?
no.
No, yeah? So, but it all happened so fast. There's a mistake from Luis. There's a hesitation. He's back on his line. Should I say, should I go? What position am I going to get myself in? So, guys, there's so much detail to go into in that 10-second clip. And how fast is his mind working? He's already said, I'm going. No, I'm not. I'm staying. No, I'm not. I'm making myself big. No, I'm not making myself small. There's loads of little aspects to make it right. Okay. So again, this is how difficult it can be and how precise we have to be when we play. Obviously, the concentration's there. Again, communication with defenders. If I go towards the ball, are my defence tucking in behind to cover the goal for me? Are they giving me the license to help them out? and then covering me again. Okay, guys, so there's so much detail we can go into this one clip. Okay, in a minute, Tony's going to show you another picture, which will make this more clearer for you guys about covering the 4 places of the goal. Okay, and it will make it, hopefully, give you a clearer picture to break this aspect of.
I think with this, guys, as well, you know, we're talking about one of the better goalkeepers in the Premier League here. You know, he's been consistent for Arsenal since he joined them. But you're also talking about a top finisher, you know, and we're not for one moment criticising Leno here. We're analysing 2 different situations. And I think that needs to be made clear. So we're not criticising, we're analysing, and that's the difference. We know that as goalkeepers, we're not always going to get it right. We're not always going to be perfect. But I think the reason why we wanted to talk about these points is because this is going to help you guys. You will begin to understand how many different elements go into the decision-making process for you when you're playing a game, but also the coaches that you work with. It's not just one thing that will affect your decision. There's a multitude of different things going on through the game, within the game, that will affect your decision-making processes. So it's very important that you get to see these kind of situations, because these are some of the best players in the world doing it. So we have to have an expectation, guys, that on occasion you might do these things not so well, and we have to help you. We have to analyse it, we have to strip it apart, then we have to coach you and give you the detail to help you develop this part of your game. And that's why we're doing that. So it's not to be critical, it's just analytical, and we want to sort of help you guys by going through these processes. But some good stuff. Well done, everybody. Some real good feedback from you there. Okay. Now, what I want to share with you guys is sort of this next part. And I've been around futsal for many, many years, and this type of shape save is very prevalent in futsal. The goalkeepers use it a lot, the blocking shape, or we call it the cross. In Spain, they call it the cross shape. But in essence, what the goalkeeper is doing is protecting all 4 corners of the goal and the central corridor of the goal. Now, obviously, I realise that in futsal, the goal's smaller, the distances are tighter and smaller. So it's different in that sense. But the actual process isn't any different. So if you look at this situation here, this is Joe Hart in a game. And obviously, he's now made a decision to come and put pressure on the ball. But what he's doing now is using his body to create a shape, a blocking shape. It ends up manifesting and moving into a spread, from a block to a spread. But what he's trying to do with all 4 limbs and that central part of his body is to protect the whole goal. Now, what we've done here, guys, if you look at that, we've numbered his 4 limbs and his central body, and it corresponds with the area in the goal that part of his body is going to defend if the ball should be struck on that path through his body or towards his body and onto the goal. Okay? And that's the important thing. Now, the other thing I want you to think about here, when you look at this image, the attacker now is going with his right foot. Look at his body shape where he's pointing. So he's not pointing, his body's not squared up and pointing towards the back half of the goal. His body now is pointing towards the front half of the goal as Joe Hart approaches the ball. So that's the reason why Joe Hart has now turned to the left. Yeah. If he turns to the right, it thins out the opportunity to create as much of a blocking mechanism behind the ball as he can. So this way, if the attacker shoots this side down to Joe Hart's left, his left foot, his left arm will make the save. If he tries to drag it across Joe Hart or go central, his trailing leg, his right leg, and his trailing arm, his right arm, yeah, and his central core act as save mechanisms. The other thing as well we talked about here, Sam, in the previous shots, look at his body. He's square and facing forward towards the ball. His head is looking forward. It's not turning. If you turn your head, it's the heaviest part of your body, and ultimately the rest of your body will follow. The shoulders will follow, and that will thin out your save mechanism. So it's very important if you're using this technique that you try and create as big a shape behind the ball as you possibly can and through to the goal. Okay, so again, just have a look at those, just some key sort of messages that we want you to think about, okay, in terms of what the goalkeeper's thinking about, and I've just touched on them obviously there. Okay? And what I want to do now is ultimately, this is what it ends up being. This is what ends up happening. So Joe Hart creates that shape, uses his momentum to move into the ball in terms of the spread, and it's his upper arm, his left arm, that makes the save. Now, Eric, Sam, Steve, we talked about this, is that sometimes what happens is the goalkeepers tend to have the arm and the knee too close together. And ultimately what ends up happening is these two appendages end up doing the same job, when ultimately you want to separate them a little bit to give you as big a surface area as you possibly can. And that's the important thing in this situation, okay? And again, there's some key pointers on the right-hand side of your screen. And this
Tony,
is
can I jump in real quick on that
Of course
one?
you can. Go ahead.
Can you go back to that map, that last save, where the hand positions in particular?
There.
Do you guys recall, and we can go back to this in a moment, I want to hear first from some of you guys. Do you remember the goal that was given up by Leno and where he was standing and how he was standing? Remember his hand position? Was it like Joe Hart's right now?
No.
Or was it down by his, no, it was down by his knee, right? Do you guys recall that? So when he got in his hip set position and Sterling's going to crush this ball, you're not going to react to that. You're just going to be in a position to make it nice. If you could replay this, watch where his hands are, guys, in this, and watch where his body goes. Everything goes low. His hands are down by his knee. He goes back to his goal. The goal's now getting smaller, and now he comes down, and his hands stay real low by his knees. Boom. That's the save. His hands were high there. And now if you watch this goal here, he doesn't come. He goes back, making the goal bigger, and he goes down nice and low, leaving that window up top. His hands are really low here. His hands are up here. I'm not saying he makes the save. And again, I'm not criticizing, as Tony mentioned earlier, but does he give himself a better opportunity? If he had come out, made himself big and coming forward with hands up higher, you know, that little difference, guys, even when you see in my window here, that's a big part of the goal. And especially if your hands are duplicated. Look where his hand is right there. His hand is duplicating what his knee is doing. So can he move that right arm higher? Same with his left. And again, it's those little details that make the difference between a goal and a save in this situation.
So the other thing, Eric, we talked about, would he have been better? So when you look at this here, would he have been better staying in that position? Yeah. Quite upright, tall, filling the goal, making the goal look smaller. And what was his rationale and reasoning for dropping to that shape? And that's the question for everybody. So, you know, is it a habit? Is it something that has become a trend in the modern game, that when the striker's shooting from this close distance, that the goalkeepers tend to drop? I think when you look at the clip with Joe Hart, because he's further from the goal line, I think dropping into that shape is probably a better decision. But I think because Leno is this close to the goal line, staying in a more upright position and being bigger, being taller, being higher, probably gives him more chance of actually getting a contact on the ball and making a save than it does by dropping into that shape there. And again, like we said, not criticism, analytical. You know, we can chew the bones out of this all day. And ultimately, he's made the decision, and it's cost them a goal. But for you guys, it's gold dust, you know, and great learning for you, you know. And this is the Joe Hart clip. So have a look at this. There is one or two after as well. So there you go. Gets pressure on. Another one here. And I've just put similar type actions in for you.
Look where his head is. Straight down, arms wide, brave.
That was the other one we talked about, wasn't it?
Yeah. This is a great save off Messi. Boom.
And of course, Kasper Schmeichel.
Look at their positions. You notice they're all the same? Like they're all coming out, head down, chin to chest, strong, hands wide.
Yeah.
They made there, just no hesitation. That's the other thing we talked about a lot last week and today.
And they're trying to make themselves as big as they can. And I think the key for you guys, again, we talked about that head position, that head shape. You've got to try and keep your head forward and fixed towards the ball and keep your body square. Because as soon as you start to turn your head, as soon as you start to move your head away from the ball, the rest of your body will follow naturally. It's attached to your shoulders and your neck through your shoulders. So it's going to start to turn your body as well. And the more you thin that body shape out, the less chance you've got of making a real good contact on the ball. Okay, guys, some fantastic talking points there. I know we could talk all day about that, but I want to move on because we've got still quite a bit to cover. I just wanted to share this with you guys because we are going to just touch on again, guys, what you went into last week in terms of defending the space. But I think this is a very important statement. So just have a quick look at that. I'm not going to read it out. Just have a quick look. Okay. So coordinated movement in relation to the ball and the other players is massively important, guys. And that affects all the decisions that you make. Okay. So I think what we talked about last week, Eric, when obviously I picked this up when I had a look on YouTube and stuff, we talked about protecting the space primarily. That was, you know, when we looked at our supporting diagrams, okay, and we talked about, you know, the goalkeeper being on that goalkeeping line, and we talked about the distances relevant to where the ball was, and some great conversation around that aspect. But what I've also done, guys, very important in terms of something that we call the goalkeeping line, but the goalkeeping triangle. And it's very important in terms of making sure that you're consistently and constantly protecting the goal as much, all of the goal, as much as you can during the processes in terms of defending the goal. So that's just a simple diagram that I've sort of created and I'm going to share with you. But as the ball moves, the goalkeeper must then be in a constant transition. And that could literally be one step. It could be quite a distance, 3 or 4 yards. But wherever the ball moves, guys, as goalkeepers, we must try to make sure that we're always in a relevant position. We always have that goalkeeping line from the ball through the goalkeeper to the middle of the goal. That then means that we're protecting the goal equally on both sides as consistently and as much as we possibly can. So I just thought a simple diagram there. And what I also wanted to share with you is, we talk about the elements of development. And what I want you to pay attention to, guys, more than anything, especially when we're talking about defending the space, is this speed element. And obviously mobility comes into that as well, okay? And there will be other elements, but we're going to touch on the actual speed in terms of starting speed, acceleration speed, and deceleration speed, and then creating an action. So just bear that in mind as we move forward. But I also wanted to show and share with you guys, I was recently doing a little bit of a session with my boy. This is my son, Robbie. So we decided to take some images when we were doing the session about the specifics around that front foot forward, that aggressive stance, and that threat to the ball should it be played either through or over the back line, and then the goalkeeper's defending either that higher part of the area or the space outside the area. So as you can see here, Robbie's in that ready stance, like a sprinter a little bit, got his hands ready, got his left foot forward. If he needs to, in a blink of an eye, he can set off, he can push away, okay? His feet are squared, and, you know, his body shape isn't in the correct angle position. That might make that a little bit difficult. And also, split seconds make a massive difference in this situation, okay? And having your body shape and your body ready to act and react is massively important. Now, I know in the flux of a game, you're not always going to be in the position, you're going to be moving. But let's say at some point the midfield player gets the ball or a forward gets the ball and the ball stops in motion and you've got a chance to get yourself in this ready position and you think that there might be a possibility that the ball's going to be threaded through or over. This is when now you need to be in that ready position. That's what it looks like from behind. That's the ball that we were dealing with. So again, you can see Robbie with his left foot forward, hands forward and in front of the body. And then that's what it should look like if I'm on the ball there as an attacker and I'm thinking about playing the ball through. Now, to me as an attacker, guys, what does it tell me in terms of Robbie's stance now? What might I be thinking that Robbie might be looking to do if I play that ball? Anybody?
Coming out.
Brilliant. Yeah. So I'm threatening, I'm saying to the person on the ball here, go on then, play the ball. Clip it through, clip it over, because I'm ready If that ball isn't pinpoint perfect to whoever you're playing it to or wherever it's going, I'm going to come and deal with it. So what he's doing is threatening that space in behind his back line. And that's what we're talking about, guys, being on the front foot. This moment could come when the ball's settled, when the player gets their head down. I think we saw it in the clip with Leno when De Bruyne played the ball through for Sterling. Leno was quite square. He wasn't front foot forward. I don't know if he was expecting De Bruyne to clip the ball forward. But if the player gets their head down or they look like they're going to strike through, that might be your opportunity to get that front foot forward and to be in that positive, aggressive stance to come and deal with the ball. Any questions on that or anything to add, coaches?
The only thing I'll add that most people, can you go back to two things, Tony?
Yeah.
One more. You don't see that.
Yeah.
I don't. When I'm watching games, whether I'm recruiting or whether I'm like really paying attention on when coaching the line between my back four and the goalkeeper, rarely do I see that set position. And I see most people standing in a normal set or standing just flat straight on to the ball. I think this is incredibly important because as we talked about, the slight delay is a goal decision. Right. And if we're in our normal, just standing flat towards the ball, and then we go to accelerate, we're still losing a little bit of time and how quick it would take us to get to the ball if played through. This set position is going to help dramatically with that. Again, it's a small fraction of a second or whatever the time is, but it is time that you're going to get back if you start in this setting. So just when managing that distance between the back line and yourself, again, I can't emphasize enough, that is the starting position that you're looking for.
Eric, can I just add a little bit of fine detail as well to this, guys?
Absolutely.
And this is very important. So when we look at the field here, the ball is on Robbie's left. Okay, you can see that clearly. So the ball's down the opposition's right-hand side. So in this case, Robbie's got what foot has he got forward? Somebody tell me.
His left.
His left foot is forward. So when you look at his body shape now, Robbie can obviously he's facing the ball. Okay, but he can also see all of what's going on here, yeah, in terms of if the ball should be played into here and so or played into a different space through here. What he's looking to do is see if he can think about maybe attacking the space that would be in front of him here. Now, what would the difference be, guys, if Robbie's right foot was forward there and his left foot was further back? What do you think would happen to his body shape?
Make the goal more open.
Would it make it more open, or do you think it would close his body off to this side of the field?
Close his body off.
Yeah, so think about that. So that's why if the ball's on the left of you as you look at the field, you have your left foot forward. Because then you open your body up to the rest of the field. If you put your right foot forward here and your left foot back, it's going to tilt Robbie's body round to the left. And he's going to close his body off to the rest of what's happening on his right. Now, if the ball's on the other side of the field, he'll have his right foot forward. Because then again, his body's open, it's not closed off. If it's central, then you can have either one forward because your body will be square to the ball anyway because it's central. So again, guys, just fine detail on if you're going to take this stance, depending on where the ball is on the field, that then determines what foot you would have forward, giving you the best and optimum body shape to see all the play and be able to deal with any ball played into those areas. Okay? Cool. So,
thank you.
Just with that, guys, coaches, I'm not going to go through all of this, but these are some of the considerations, guys, that we must think about. And I don't think we probably think about them in the depth that we should do, especially coaches when we're supporting our goalkeepers. Do we really spend enough time and thinking about that starting speed? Do we talk about and work on that ready posture like we just looked at Robbie's position there? How important is that first step and the direction that we take? And then that stride length to actually get us off the mark. Think about a sprinter. So when you watch Usain Bolt come out of the blocks, he doesn't take a big stride. The first 2, 3, 4 strides will be quite small. And those strides are to get him up and running. Now, once he's in full flow, that's when he'll start to extend his long legs and he gets that distance with a longer reach. But that initial movement, guys, needs to be short bursts of energy with small steps to get you off the mark and get you up and running. Then you think about your acceleration speed, stride length, and your running posture. Try to keep your hands steady. Try not to be running with your arms, because if the attacker gets close control of the ball, they then could strike the ball. And if your arms are moving and running about, your hands aren't ready to make saves. So try and move with speed, but use the bottom half of your body. And then the final part, guys, there is literally you're talking about your deceleration, because at some point you're going to have to put the brakes on, okay? And at those moments, those are pivotal. As you decelerate and you slow down, do you stay big? Do you start to drop? Can you compose yourself to make sure your hands are in the right position? And again, think back to the Joe Hart save. When he actually set off, he made a decision to get close to the ball, but at some point, he had to put the brakes on and he had to stop, because he knew there was going to be some kind of contact with the ball. So these three elements or aspects of that element are massively important, guys, and it's something that we should be working on as goalkeepers and coaches developing when we're working with our keepers. Coaches, anything you want to add to that?
Oh, not for me.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're going to jump on. So what we're going to try and do for the rest of the webinar, not too long now, guys, because I'm mindful we've shared a lot again, and we've still got a lot to cover on 1v1s. We're going to try and do this phase by phase. We've got 3 phases we're going to look at. So the first phase we're going to look at, we're probably only going to do this to see. I'm going to show you some clips, and then we're going to go into maybe 2 or 3 breakout rooms, depending on numbers. We'll have 5 minutes, not 10 minutes, as it is on here. We'll have a discussion, come back, discuss, and then we'll see where we go from there. But what I want you to look at, guys, this is the first phase. So in other words, that ball's been played through. The goalkeeper's made the decision to leave the line, knowing that they've probably got a really good high percentage chance of securing the ball, okay? Now, I want you to watch the clips. There's a few on there, but then think about the processes that the goalkeeper's going through in order to come to the outcomes that they do, okay? Right, here we go. Okay, and we'll watch once more. So again, just pay attention. Each one is slightly different. What creates the decision? What's the outcome? What did they do well? What did they think about? What went through their minds? Why did they do what they did? But also, guys, I want you to think about what might be some of the common issues or problems that you might face in these situations as a goalkeeper. Okay? Sam, I'll pass it back to you, mate.
All good, mate. All the rooms are ready to go, so I'm just going to open them for you guys now.
Right.
You're each with a coach. There's about 3 keepers to 1 coach should be. So yeah, guys, chat away, and then we'll rejoin in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Perfect.
Here we go.
All done,
about
Sam.
5 minutes, boys.
Sam, have I got my screen shared?
Not yet, no.
Right, do you want me to do that now then?
Yeah. Crack on, mate.
Yeah, okay, mate. There we go.
All right, we're back.
Okay. Is everybody back in?
Yep, I believe so.
Yeah, Eric, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yep. And I'm making
Okay,
sure
mate. Can I leave this with you, Eric, just to try and get bits out of the group,
absolutely.
and then I'll finish with the final detail?
So here's what we're going to do then. I'm going to go, essentially, I'm going to go coach by coach. And Tony, did you have a group or no?
Yep, I did. Yep.
Okay, I'm going to go group by group, and I'm basically going to mention a coach's name. Coaches, I'm going to ask you to hit the mute button right here. I mean that sincerely. Hit the mute button, because I want your kids talking, not you, right? So let's start with Tony's group. Who is in Tony's group? Give me a shout.
I
Players,
was.
all mute buttons off. You got Adam, yeah?
I was.
Who's that? Guy. Who's I was?
Oh, Abby.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to go to the two of you. What's your take on it? There's a lot of positives in there. We couldn't find too many negatives on our end in our group, but from a positive perspective, what did the goalkeeper do right? Or what did the goalkeepers do right?
Quickly anticipated the fact that pressure is on them. They have to go out and make the save.
They hesitate? Did anyone
No,
hesitate?
at all.
Not
No.
once. Not once. Did you guys see their starting positions? This is open conversation, not just to Tony's group. Did anyone see the starting positions of the goalkeepers and how they were set?
Not really.
No, that's fine. That's fine. A couple of them didn't have it, but a couple of them did. And the ones in the box, you see them set position. But some of the ones that are distant, you see them in that staggered stance. I just wanted to make sure you guys are focusing on that. What else did you guys have? Tony's group, what else came out of your discussion?
We talked about like the bravery of the goalkeepers coming out.
Nice. What about it?
Everyone led with their hands because they were quick enough to get there first.
Good. Good. Anything else you guys would want to add? Anyone else in your group that hasn't talked? Anyone else that wants to put a 2 cents in there for that group? I love the bird calls right now. I don't know who that is, but it's nice and relaxing. All right, moving on to Coach Steve's group. Coach Steve, man, who is in Coach Steve's group? I need names, please.
I was.
Who's I? We already went through
Oh, Rowan.
this. Thank you. Who is paired up with Rowan?
I was Erickson.
I was too.
All right, honestly, guys, I need names. My apologies again.
Cameron.
Cameron, Rowan, and who's the other?
Erickson.
Erickson. Awesome. Add to what they just discussed, guys. I want you to think about anything they might have done negative or in communication or things like that.
So pretty much what we said was, I mean, I don't know how to go off of it. Like, I don't want to repeat everybody else's thing.
Repeat, but add. I'm okay with that. Backing off of, continue with what you would say. Erickson, Cam, don't let her hang in there. What else? You guys were in that same conversation.
He could communicate with his defensive players if it was like a 1v1 situation, and he could get them out of the box so they wouldn't be really crowded and difficult to really do anything. Or if he's going back, he can tell his defensive players that, so his defensive players go back with him, so he could have a better chance of blocking it off of them.
Okay. All right, Cameron, what would you add?
Just that he should have communicated better so there was no confusion and everyone knew what was going on.
Erickson, all good? All right. Coach Sam's group. Coach Sam's group, who, no eye calls, please. Who's in there?
Aston.
And Hannah.
And Hannah? Just the two of you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Aston, I'll leave it with you first. Hannah, you're going to be next. What do you want to add to that?
Is that they had no hesitation. There's their eyes for them to dive at the feet to get the ball and away and stop timing when they should go, if they should like go long ball. Also, the communication needs to be key of when you're going out and giving them no chance to like touch the ball. As soon as they lose that control, go for it.
Good. Hannah, add anything to that, please?
Again, I said, like, bouncing off of what the other group said, the goalkeeper has to be brave to come out for the ball, and their positioning was very good. They came out with their hands, so.
Let's go back to Ashton's comment about communication. Obviously, it's a keeper call, right? We can all agree on that one. Now, talk about the tone and why is it important in these situations?
Well, you have to be, you can go.
Be heard and like know that the defenders that knowing that you're going for it and it's your ball.
Hannah, we talked about this
What
before.
was the other about? Hannah, yours beginning with S. What was it quickly?
What was that, Sam?
Hannah had a good point beginning with S. Main point.
Speed.
Speed. Thank you.
Eric, can I
Yes.
just jump in there? And I think it's great there what Aston just talked about, because we touched on this the other day, and you did ask me to mention this. I used a couple of words, and I talked about, first of all, the goalkeeper being positive, yeah, and not sort of erring away from their early decision. Normally, your first decision is your best decision. And secondly, it being purposeful goalkeeping. So there was a purpose behind every situation. The goalkeeper read it quickly, understood that they had the physical capability to get to the ball before the defender or the attackers, made that decision, trusted that decision, and then went for it. And that's the key for me. And the other thing that I talked to my group about was no two situations were the same there. The lines and angles of approach for each goalkeeper were different. Some were quite high in the box, some were quite deep and lateral to the side. So the big thing that we talked about, guys, was that the goalkeeper has to make a ultimately fast decision based on the detail that they're seeing as quick as they possibly can, and that then dictates the next action. But we also talked about how fast that actually happens, Eric. Like, we're talking fractions of a second.
Mm-hmm.
And what this tells us, guys, is that goalkeepers are hugely intelligent individuals. To be able to assess all of this, to be able to then make a decision as to what the action is going to be, then ultimately to go and perform it and come out with a positive outcome. But that, for me, is then being positive and being purposeful in everything that we're doing. And that's the two words that I wanted to sort of share with everybody today. So I'll mute myself again now. Go ahead.
It's hard. Let's go to my group, man. I know we have one thing to add, and I'm just going to tee it up for you three, and I'll let you three knock it out of the park. Maxine, Charlie, and Bryant. Let's talk about from a forwards perspective. We're watching the forward for shooters' cues. Can you each name a cue that we may have looked at or saw, which might make us look to make a decision as quickly as what Tony was describing? Maxine, may I start with you? And then we'll go Charlie, and Bryant, I'm going to leave it with you.
Their big touch.
A big, heavy touch. Yep, absolutely. Charlie, can you add to that?
Charlie.
Oh, I think Charlie might be on mute there.
Wait, is my mic all right now?
There you go. You're good now, sir.
Yeah, I've never used that before. I was thinking, like, I mean, it was good how he predicted, like, how, like, he knew that he could run out and get the ball, and he knew that, like, the distance he could run, like, he'd be able to run out and get the ball, like, before their tackle would. And also, like, saying about, like, communication is that, like, he'd have to let his defenders know that none of them to go for it. Like, he was the one going for it, like, the same keepers, like, make sure that none of the defenders get in his way or anything when he runs out to try and smother the ball.
Nice. Bryant, I'm going to leave it with you, man. And if you could talk about the eyesight and vision of a forward.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we talked a lot about just like what it looks like from the forward's perspective. And like, obviously in this situation, we're the aggressor. And so if the forward is either like head down or maybe he's looking back to receive a through ball, that's a cue for us to take our space. Maybe we can take even more space than we normally could if the forward is looking up at us, and whether the ball is a couple yards out in front of them, that's just a visual cue for the keeper to take that space, make yourself bigger, get in a better position, so when he does look up, you're taking up the whole goal, and he's got nothing to shoot at. And then also with the communication piece of it, not only for talking to our defenders, but just that loud, intense keeper call. If the forward doesn't want any part of that, he's going to pull out, and then it makes the situation just tons easier for the keeper to deal with.
Brian, can I ask you a question? How easy or difficult is it for the goalkeeper to do that? You know, all those things you talked about.
It just, I mean, it's each piece in itself is pretty straightforward, but it's just doing them all at the same time every time. I mean, that's part of being a goalkeeper, is being able to.
That's what I was going to suggest. You know, at times as goalkeepers, guys, we need chameleon eyes. You know, because you're looking at the ball, you're looking at your defenders, you're looking at the attacker. You know, there's so many different things that you're trying to sort of grab at. And that's what we said in our group, is that ultimately you're not always going to get it right, because you've got so many things you're trying to do. You are going to mess it up sometimes, and that's okay, because that's part of learning. I think the important thing is that if you do mess it up, that you don't dwell on it, but you take the information on board, understand what you need to do better next time, but use it as a fantastic learning opportunity and experience. It's going to happen. That's why we showed you Leno making what we perceive to be a good decision and probably making not such a good decision in one hit. It can happen to the best. So you guys have got to know that it's going to happen to you. Don't be afraid of that. Deal with that, but then move on and learn from the situation. And that's the key, guys.
Well said, Tony. Well said. Do we want to just wrap up then with that? I think we have another slide, Tony, or how?
Yeah, well, I think all I've got here, Eric, guys, I'm not going to read every one of them out. I've got what we talked about. You've probably covered most of these. This is what affects the goalkeeper's decision. So have a look at those. I think one of the big things we talked in our group, Eric, was that initial assessment of the ball as it travels from whoever has had the final touch before it comes towards me. What's the flight of it? How fast is it travelling? What angle is it coming towards the goal? So on and so forth. Because in them clips, again, some of them were quite high, some of them were angled, some of them were quite deep towards the goal line and to the side. So the angle of approach is always going to be different, and our assessment of that early is massively important. So picking up the flight of the ball, the travel of the ball, is huge, and we have to do that fast. Okay, there's some key points there, guys. Again, I'm not going to go through all of them, but also there's some common issues, that we would look at and we would think about. And again, some of these you've covered. I've just stressed it there: poor angle of approach, no communication, hand position shape, and so on. Again, the goalkeeper might be running with the arms and the hands and not have them ready to go and lead towards the ball as you would when you're smothering. So there's some real key indicators here of what is going to help the goalkeeper and the decision-making processes to go through, but also what could hinder you if you don't make those decisions early and well enough. And then I think, Eric, the last one, my friend, was just a little bit of a session, a little bit of an idea, especially for the coaches on here, some of you more senior goalkeepers, of a simple practice that you could encourage your coaches to work on, where you've basically got a possession type game happening in the middle. of the field. There'll be a certain amount of passes, but then the ball is played through and an attacker will set off. Now, you can either have the ball played through, or you can have a player actually drive out of the area with the ball, and then you'll have those decision-making processes for the goalkeeper. What you can also do with that possession-based situation there is you can have it lopsided to one end or the other. So you get a tighter distance one end and a greater distance the other end, and you can get your goalkeepers to flip each end so they get a go at both distances and the decision-making processes within that situation. So, guys, Eric, everybody's going to get these presentations anyway, so they'll have more time to chew over them and have a look at them in depth. But from my point of view, fantastic today. Awesome detail. Great stuff from the keepers and the coaches involved. So over to you, my friend.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I love the detail that we get into in these conversations. And I talk to my goalkeepers about this all the time. Like, we're not critiquing. And even when I'm working with the girls who are on this call here, or it's Hannah, Cam, Rowan, Max, like, they know I don't critique. I'm analyzing and giving them feedback on how they can improve. And if that area of improvement is this big, they're going to hear it. And the reason they're going to hear it is because that's what separates, literally this much, separates the good from the great. And if you can you saw it in the hand position with Leno. Leno's hands were down by his knees. And I'm not criticizing Leno, obviously one of the best in the world, but if his position's just slightly different, I bet you he learns from that if that's pointed out. And he now needs to work on keeping his arms up when he's in that vulnerable position. And he was in a vulnerable position. You got Sterling lasering a ball, bouncing ball at your 3-yard line inside your 6. That's a hopeless thing. So what can you do to make the best odds for you, right? And I think we can control some of that. Sam, Steve, any questions from you two? Any comments you guys want to put out there to wrap up?
Fantastic tonight, I think, guys. Yeah, everyone's speaking more now. Everyone's getting more comfortable on the call. So, guys, you having those light bulb moments and you telling us what you know and what you see is amazing. So, well done for that. And yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you on the future calls and yeah, all getting that 1%, 2% better, and then obviously taking what we learn here back onto the field, really, and then having those light bulb moments that when you're actually doing it, rather than just listen to us guys, you can share it and be like, oh, this is what I did on the pitch today. Oh, that's amazing, and then bring it back and share with the group next week. If you have a good session next week and say, oh, I did this block save, my hands are in the right place, amazing, tell us, let us know, and it's just good to get your feedback as well.
Yeah.
Eric, just a little heads up for next week as well.
Yep.
So we're going to continue this process. We're going into phase 2.
Yep.
Phase 3 of dealing with through balls and 1v1s. We will have a breakout room again to discuss some of that detail. But we're also going to have a little bit of fun at the end. We're going to have a little bit of a quiz. So I want you to think about, guys, defending the area, defending the goal, defending the area, defending the space, because you're going to be looking at a set of clips and then making decisions on what you think the goalkeeper is doing in that specific moment. So we'll have a little bit of fun towards the back end of our webinar next week with it as well.
Nice. Stephen, anything you'd like to add? Comments?
Yep. Overall, very well done from everyone.
Okay. My last comments, guys, is this. It might look like we have 12 goalkeepers on the line, but we also have different locations on the line. We have Pittsburgh. We have the UK. Columbus, Ohio is joining us today. And we also have someone here from Florida. So, guys, I encourage feedback. All 4 of us, we are encouraging feedback. And the reason these guys are on from different locations, because we are friendly with your goalkeeper coach. Chad Prickett out of Columbus. He's a damn beast. He's awesome. Bryant, you are in good hands with him, and I know that. And I'm glad to hear that he's referring you in. And I know he couldn't make it today because I think he's closing on his house. So congrats to him. But at the same time, he's telling me, I'm coming, man. So, Bryant, whatever feedback you have for me or for Chad or for us, guys, let it be known, because we're looking to spread the word. It's free content. It's good content. It's deep dive. And it's for the experienced goalie. So, again, we mentioned this too. Like, if you're looking to play in college here in the United States, you're going to need film study. You're going to understand what critiquing and analyzing is all about. And we believe we do a good job of it. And we also believe we have the content to support it too. So, guys, I am really happy with this is going. Thank you so much. Referrals are always welcome. Bring some friends. Bring your coaches. And until next week, if you don't already, please follow GK Icon Pittsburgh and all of us, whether it's Tony, Sam, Steve. Follow us on Facebook because that's where we're doing a lot of our communications. Guys, peace. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend.
Yeah. See you soon, everybody. Coach is staying on for a couple of minutes. Yeah.
Cheers, guys.
Okay. See you, keepers.
Sam, you got that recording going still?
Yeah, shall I pause it? Stop it?
Yeah, please.
No worries, mate.